Wow, so I'm so glad to have you here. Yeah,
Well, thanks for inviting me.
yeah, we're honored, really.
So you spoke to Licho already. My name's William. I started doing these interviews for Ergon,
Mhm.
and so I'm just basically like a an evangelist for Ergon. So I just help Licho out with outreach and community. And all I could say is he's just told me a lot about you. So I already know he's excited to have you here, so I'm excited too.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so maybe I'll introduce Kevin to the audience a bit. Um, so uh, we have here Kevin Carson, who's let's say revived the anarchist economic thought for the modern era, uh, and uh, and yeah, I'm very excited, and I don't want to sound like a yeah, but I'm a big fan. Yeah, uh,
Well, thank you.
uh, yeah. So I've been reading your book on mutualist economy,
Uh,
and mm, the old one, right? Uh, uh, so uh, what we in the Ergon community are making is a cryptocurrency that is based on uh, mm, based on the work to issue the units, and what I understood reading your book was uh, that it is tightly connected um, to uh, to the cost theory of value, and yeah, I was um, pretty newbie in the anarchist economics sort of, and I didn't know really the actual formulation of the cost theory of value, and yeah, and I discovered it's uh, it's probably very deeply connected. Uh, and yeah, then I started reading your homebrew
Industrial
industrial
Revolution.
revolution. Yes, yes, and now I'm buying a 3D printer. So yeah, and I wanted to ask you, what are you working on these days? What are you what's on your mind, and what's your favorite thing right now?
Well, I'm kind of jumping back and forth between three things. One of them is more of a long-term project that's sort of on the back burner, just looking at international security issues from an anarchist standpoint on the things like the declining ability of the United States as a global hegemon to project its power, and at the same time, things like increased advantage of the defensive that's making it harder for regional powers like Russia and China to exert power against their neighbors, and hopefully will make it harder for powers of any kind to enforce authority within their own territories. And it includes other issues like the rise of networked mimetic warfare,
Nice. Yeah.
vulnerability of the international finance system to things like global debt strikes, and pretty much just a grab bag of things. In the shorter term, I'm doing an analysis of the land back issue, and of the nature of ethnostates and why they're problematic. And I'm also doing something on the theory of money that might either be a fairly short-term C4SS study or a longer-term book project, just depending on how things go. So,
Nice. Yeah. So international security. Uh, uh, yeah. That seems big. You say it's a slow burner. Uh, so I assume it's like big, right? So
it might be. I mean, I don't even know for certain that I'll finish it, or I'll wind up just breaking off parts of it into separate studies or something, because the central issue, the evolution of military technology and power projection capability, is probably going to be the part that's the most difficult and raises the most questions of whether I'll have anything meaningful I can write about it at length. But the money thing, especially, and it's the use of debt as a weapon and other forms of asymmetric warfare seem like they would be good topics to research no matter what.
yeah. We also had some conversation about it on the podcast recently about how money is being used to sort of attack people, uh, and I think maybe our topics of our community maybe kind of tie into your current interests, maybe. Right? This is because we're trying to somehow reinvent money without the state. Um,
Yeah.
just not do it in the way that is volatile like Bitcoin is, which, well, it ended up being nothing but a speculation vehicle. Um, mm, and it is, well, maybe later about that, maybe more about it later. But yeah, so I wanted to ask you a question about your thoughts uh, on the nature of markets and how are they like how are they connected to violence, like um, can a market really exist without the threat of violence, and we've been discussing that probably at the early time Silk Road was kind of free of it, because both of the participants of a trade were fully anonymous, and nobody could have threatened uh, one another. So in a way, this anonymity made people actual peers in the trade. Yeah, I've been reading David Graeber, that the first 5,000 years, and yeah, one of his points was that markets can't really exist without violence. And what do you think about that?
Well, I think the market has sort of an ambivalent value here. I mean, I think obviously a specific platform like Silk Road can exist without the immediate presence of violence. But I think on a larger scale, the societies within which markets are embedded, or any society, no matter how it's organized, ultimately can't exist without some sort of violence, just in the sense that they all have some sort of fundamental constitutional norms that depend on violence in the last resort to uphold. If you start getting into real world or meat space relations where people occupy physical space and maintain possession of physical goods, I think you're talking about a situation where ultimately violence will be the method of last resort, just to enforce possession of your living space or the land you cultivate or your possessions. But I don't think aggression is necessary. And then again, markets. I don't think there's any such thing as a generic market. Any function. There's a wide variety of different societies that a functioning market can exist within. Any just a near infinite range of different sets of property
Yeah.
rules that the markets presuppose. The markets themselves are just a mechanism for setting market clearing prices given those institutional norms. So the outcome of the market would depend to a large extent on the nature of the property rules that were predefined. If you have any egalitarian or unjust forms of property, then the resulting prices and allocations of goods will be unjust.
Right. Yes.
So
Yes.
can I say what I was understanding about your point is that markets are really just a place for price discovery as a
Yeah.
mechanism. And to build off of Licho's question, do you think it's more about like the market structure that produces unnecessary violence, like weaponized interdependence between countries, hegemony, and incitement of war? Because people say that the way the debt system works and the dollar's power works is that
Yeah.
it creates unnecessary conflict.
Uh, I think it's a matter of the underlying institutional structures, property rules. If you define the rules governing rights of possession and all of those other fundamental institutional questions, the markets can operate peacefully. But if your economic system is based on extracting unearned economic rents from artificial property rights or artificial scarcities, uh, then the results of the market price system are going to be of a zero sum nature and result in some people benefiting at others' expense and requiring violence to impose their will on the losers.
So Licho knows your work better than I do, but what's your thought on the, you know, the Federal Reserve regulating basically supply of the dollar, and can there be like a free market substitute? And if that was what you wanted to achieve as like a proponent of anarchism and improving monetary theory, how would you do you have any idea how you would go about implementing this? Would you be um would you be somewhat let's say like okay with like considering the idea of using a cryptocurrency, or do you think it has to be something else?
Well, I mean, cryptocurrency is more like just the architecture of the the platform than reflecting any particular theory of the basis for money. In my view, the Federal Reserve functions the same way that capitalist banks functioned in the 19th century in terms of just their underlying basic assumption. The problem is the assumptions, first of all, that money has to be a store of value that is backed by something that has independent value as a commodity rather than just being a unit of account for measuring the goods being exchanged. And second, the idea that credit is something that has to be lent against a previous stockpile of wealth rather than just a way of coordinating flows of production in terms of a common unit of account. My own favorite model of money and credit is Thomas Greco's or Bernard Lietaer's mutual credit clearing systems that function a lot like what David Graeber described in debt in medieval villages where people would just
Yes.
mutually keep running open accounts without any kind of money being
Actually exchange. Yeah.
necessary. You just it functions basically the same as a checking account, except that you're allowed to run a continuing floating negative balance so long as it doesn't go down below a certain level. But everyone who performs a good or who produces a good or performs a service, when they do that, the balance on their account goes up. Every time they consume something produced by someone else, the balance goes down. So that the account is just a way of tracking the exchanges over
So
time. Nobody has to have any money to start out with. As for cryptocurrency, I mean, I can see something like blockchain being used as the architecture for something like Greco's system. I remember seeing some time ago someone arguing that the blockchain was ideal as an accounting system for something like a neighborhood alternative energy grid where it tracked the amount of energy people put into it or took out of it. And that sounds exactly like one of Greco's mutual credit accounts to me.
Yeah, so that's basically what we're doing here. But the energy that is being put in is through the machines, through computers.
And your
That
basic your basic unit of account is labor time.
it's labor, but it's done by the machines. It's mining the cryptocurrency.
Okay,
Um,
that I guess that's where I would take issue, at least as I understand what that sounds like, is the whole idea of mining itself as a source of value is my main problem with Bitcoin right now.
yes,
Is it
but in Bitcoin, the unit is an arbitrary thing. There is a constant amount of bitcoins being issued on every block, and then it is halved once every 4 year. So in Bitcoin, it's not really like that. When people stop mining, the issuance also stops, right? So it's not tied to this work in any way. Whereas in Ergon, as we have it, when uh, when mining stops, the issuance also stops, which creates this feedback loop. that well, there's no more of those units needed right now on the market, uh, and uh, and yeah, maybe this work will be better spent somewhere else. And this mining, it also boils down to the actual work of people, because most of the expenditures is electricity
Mm.
and the machines, right? And someone has to manufacture them. Someone has to produce this electricity, and as I see it, is when there are no barriers um, in the market, then this like this difference between how
Yeah.
much a miner has to pay for electricity and the machines, and what he earns through like mining, it's like the amount of work his amount of his own effort he's done to set up those machines and started mining, right? Well, we don't live in that society yet. We we have monopolies on electricity as well, but well, maybe it's somehow at least a bit reflecting this reality.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my main question would be just concerning the basic idea that money is something that has to be created or generated as opposed to just being a unit of measure. To take the analogy of feet and inches, you don't have to create inches before they can be used to measure something. They have no independent existence apart from the thing being measured. And
Yes, yes. I think I have an idea how to answer that. Well, when a miner mines, they are doing some work for the community. They are securing this chain, securing all those transactions that are happening, and they are given nothing in return except for a for a entry on on a ledger, which is not something very real. Indeed, it's just a piece of code that shows that you have this much and this much
Can I add
of
something to
of the
that?
unit. Yeah.
So the proof of work like mechanism doubles as two things: the way to determine who gets the issuance, and to, like Licho said, to secure the network. Because the problem with accounting, digital accounting, is the double spend problem. And historically, to solve the double spend problem, you needed a centralized third party to validate each transaction and check that it wasn't spent twice. So what Bitcoin did was solve the double spend problem so that you didn't need a centralized third party to eliminate the trust in the system, so that the ledger could be legitimate and everyone could use it and verify the validate the legitimacy of all the state of transactions independently on their own. So it's just a
okay.
part of the whole like freedom aspect and
Mhm.
security and scalability. And at the same time, I would add that like what's interesting about an energy based currency is it's like you basically get a credit in the form of Ergon, depending on how much energy you sacrifice. So you make like a strong signal of sacrifice and you generate something of value. And because the energy, I mean, sorry, the supply of Ergon is proportional to the number or the units of energy put into the network, it's perfectly elastic. So it's the reason that you can't just like say like create money randomly without any sort of consensus is because like it needs to be regulated so that supply actually meets demand and doesn't get
Yeah.
out of control.
Okay. Yeah. The thing with Greco's system, it's definitely a central third party in the same sense that a village's mutual credit system would be a central third party. But the limit to creating money is simply the actual performance of services and the purchase of them, because the money is created by the exchanges themselves. But it sounds like, to some extent, your process of mining is actually analogous in some ways to your balance going up in the checking account in Greco's system. But just all the technical details sound like they're probably more complicated than you could get across to me in a podcast.
Right. And so
Okay.
I guess what your point is that in Greco's system, um, the supply is just self-regulating. It
Yeah.
self-corrects through
Yeah.
efficiency.
Yeah, it just basically a system where people are producing goods and services and consuming them, and it's their interactions with one another. The amount of money at any given time is a function of that,
So
and
it's I'm sorry.
it definitely requires a third party institutional mechanism for
Right.
trust. Would to scale it
Which
beyond local
which
communities would really
funny enough,
require.
actually,
Hmm.
that would also require energy to enforce at the end of the day for the third party to enforce the rules.
Well, yeah, I mean, just the basic monitoring and hosting the servers and stuff like that, but it would be a pretty tiny fraction of the total value being processed by the system. It could probably just be handled by some sort of automatic deduction of a fraction of a percent or something like that. And I think it could be scaled upwards just through federation, where the local accredited exchange systems were the members of a regional system and so forth.
Yeah. Do you know of any actual implementation, software implementation of such a system?
Uh, I know Greco's kept an account of experiments with it around the world, and it's been tried in a pretty substantial number of localities, but I don't know the details. If you Google Thomas Greco and go to his website, you could probably find the information on that. Of course, there are barriers to it, because if it operates on too large a scale, it might run afoul of legal tender laws or
Right.
banking regulations that require you to be licensed as a bank before you can issue credit and have a certain level of capitalization. And arguably, when the system allows people to run a negative balance equal to whatever number of their average month's activity, it's functioning as an unlicensed lender.
Yeah, that would be also a good reason why to do it as like using the cryptocurrency technology, because then the people who are confirming the transactions aren't actually third party, because everything happens through consensus. Um, but yeah, I wanted to ask about something else. I don't remember now.
I think
So
I was really interested that I feel like your point about like how you explain Greco's system is that like the best money isn't even like money as we understand it. It's really just an emergent property of people interacting with each other and creating ledgers of debt with each other. Am I
Yeah,
understanding that?
yeah, yeah. Just I guess that the money itself is just the equivalent of feet and inches. It has no independent existence in the sense of having any independent value of its own or being backed by anything. It's just a unit of measure for the actual goods and services themselves.
yeah, but what unit are they using? Minus I mean, you can have a negative balance on your account, but negative balance of what actually? Is this an
You mean
abstract I don't know, village dollar, or like an actual dollar to have it exchangeable later?
it could be tied to anything? I mean, you could start out with the existing prices in dollars and cents from the surrounding economy just as a starting point, and then let the prices evolve through supply and demand within the system. After that, I think Graeber said that in a lot of Western European villages, the denomination in these exchange systems was the old uh, units of currency from the Carolingian Empire when the actual coins hadn't been in circulation for hundreds of years.
Yes, yes. And is it somehow prevented for someone to over issue the his own personal like credit? Is it somehow? I mean, can it like withstand a malicious person that simply says they will do something, but they won't do anything?
Well, that works exactly the same way as it does with a checking account in today's economy. You're paid by a draft at the time you perform the service, or uh, an individual selling the good or service might, uh, or the person making the purchase might allow for future performance at their own discretion. But that's exactly the same as it is when a merchant deals with a customer now. It's at their own discretion. The limit on abuse of the system is in the architecture of the third party itself, where it sets the rules determining how many months of your own standard uh, flow through uh, uh, you're allowed to run a deficit equivalent to.
Oh, I see. I see. I
So,
see.
like
Yeah.
if you do $1,000 worth of business in the system, and it's set at a 6 month limit, you could theoretically run a deficit of $6,000, but after that, your account would be frozen until you performed enough services or sold enough output to bring you below the limit again. That just
Yeah,
didn't
that's
So
intriguing. That's
arbitrate
very
the
intriguing.
concept.
yeah,
And
William,
interest. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it just the way it's we've been discussing it so far. I think it's also important to mention that it could be used on a larger community scale as a business to business thing. for one business selling machine tools to another and so forth. So rather than it just being like the kind of local currency that people use to buy stuff in stores, it would be coordinating the flows of intermediate goods in an entire productive economy.
So this theory actually does make perfect sense with me. And I guess the only reason that I would push into the direction of like a proof of work, like an energy-based cryptocurrency still is because it's in communication theory, it's just a matter of the fact that you can't make peer-to-peer transactions without using proof of work as a security mechanism. In the same way that like a nation is running the servers for these mutual credit systems, they need a defense system to defend the value that they're trying to secure.
I guess the one possibility there is in Benjamin Tucker and William Green's work on mutual banks, their credit actually was issued against things that were used as collateral or whatever, but that's irrelevant to the point. The operation of the system itself was funded by a minimal interest rate, just equivalent to the operating expenses or overhead of the banks themselves, just enough to pay someone to maintain the records and sit behind the teller's desk or whatever, which was less than 1%. And so I mean that's just one possible alternative, to have something like a fraction of a percent interest rate on all transactions that go towards paying the administrative costs.
Yeah, because that's actually how Bitcoin works. The block reward that happens each block is a subsidy for administrative costs at the end of the day.
There's probably a lot of stuff in there that would translate in a useful way. My only real objection to Bitcoin is the concept of proof of work or mining itself, and the idea that it's primarily a deflationary investment asset rather than an actual medium of exchange.
So have you
Yeah,
been?
so that's
Oh, sorry.
sorry. I wanted to say that that's exactly what we're trying to address, like the fact that it's deflationary and it's an investment, and it's not suitable to be a currency. Well, nobody wants to like trade with something that is so volatile, and like I've been to crypto communities that are vocal about, yeah, this is money, but it's not. It's just not money. It doesn't serve as a unit of account, uh, precisely
Yeah,
because of the artificial scarcity that is put on it, the zero elasticity, essentially, because uh, as I said before, Bitcoin issuance is not tied to anything. It's arbitrarily pre-planned at the inception. The founder uh, somehow came up with a number of 21 million of units and designed an exponentially decaying issuance mechanism that will, well, blindly to any market conditions issue that. Um, so yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's basically Austrian gold bug crap. It's the same people that are major fans of gold are
yeah,
same ANCAP types who love Bitcoin.
Yeah, but it's even worse than gold because gold supply actually reacts to demand and it's infinite.
Yeah.
So it's even worse than gold. It's a hyper deflationary version of gold that has no stable production cost. You know.
But yeah, maybe if you have an online website just describing how your system functions, you could email me a link to it.
Yes. It's ergon.moe. And there's a blog where we've been writing some like articles explaining that. And in the questions I sent you, there was a link to like my take on why I think it's a mutual credit. It's a form of mutual credit, but well, after talking to you, I'm no longer sure it's such a valid like comparison. We had some arguments in our community before, like especially our friend Tobias really hated the idea to call it like a credit, to call it this way. Well, mostly because credit associates for him with the modern system, like debt-based money. This is exactly what we have now, and it's not no good. He gave us several arguments and others as well. Um, Mostly the fact that only one type of work generates like it. Uh, yeah, generates those credits because we have it like somewhat reversed. The credit is issued after the work happens, right? So it's somewhat when you're performing this mining, and anyone can perform mining, indeed. A hole is created, and this credit is like a current flowing through holes in a semiconductor, as our another friend brilliantly put it. Um, and the issue that Tobias had with it is that the units can never be redeemed for anything, right? Because you perform the work, but nothing can be given back, right? You secured the network, and that's it. You can't recover this energy. You can't make this unit back into energy, right? So
Yeah.
and he claimed that it discredits the idea that it can be called a debt. I mean, like a credit. It can't be called a credit.
Hmm.
But well, sort of, you kind of said that that doesn't have to be. I mean, credit doesn't have to be exchangeable back for
It,
some. It doesn't have to be backed by something, right?
it's well, it's credit in the sense that the members of the system are issuing credit to each other. Uh,
But to each other, right? That it's the important part is that it happens to each other, not that to like the abstract community,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean the the unit of denomination is not itself something that is a credit that can be redeemed in any kind of independent, independently valued commodity, but
Oh, I
it's uh,
see.
it's credit in the sense that anytime you purchase a good or service from someone else, you're being extended credit within the system that will be backed by your own labor in the future or
Yeah.
by
So
your own past labor if you're running a positive balance.
So we would
But
essentially have to just, yes.
yeah, I'll look back through the uh, email thread then to your initial link. Uh, Check that out.
Yeah, I wanted to say that. Oh no, I forgot it. I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Uh, Maybe I'll remember.
But the thing with the Federal Reserve, I don't think I said anything much about them. Basically, it's operating on the same assumptions as the previous capitalist banking system, going back to the goldsmiths in London, that you have a certain level of capitalization that you're issuing, constantly issuing credit against on a fractional reserve basis, and the Federal Reserve works the same way. It's basically creating money out of thin air that costs the bank nothing to issue, but they're able to charge a rate of interest for the service simply because they have a licensed monopoly right on performing the function of issuing credit.
So the way I look at Ergon is it's like if the Federal Reserve had to burn $1 worth of electricity for every $1 they printed.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll definitely need to just do some reading on it to get a clear grasp on how it works.
Yeah, I think I remembered what I wanted to ask. I wanted to no, I wanted to comment. Not ask, but I wanted to comment that internally within the system, we have something that is called tokens, uh,
Hmm.
and the tokens are just small coins that have writing on them, and what you can write there whatever you want, and there are schemes to issue like something that is basically created by anyone for almost free, for only those maintaining costs, for like for the cost of a transaction, which is really under a few under a hundredth of a cent. uh, and I have a draft of something I called a personal bond token, where you issue a token on the blockchain that represents essentially a personal credit that you when you're making an undertaking that is going to be to bring you some money in terms of, let's say, Ergon. Then you can pay with that instead, and anyone can issue those.
Hmm.
And then it's based on nothing but a promise. So it's fully based on the trust between the issuer and mm, between the issuer and the receiver. But yeah, the idea is that you pay later. So um, that would be kind of like mutual credit, indeed, wouldn't it?
Well, even in a a overarching community system like Greco's, I like the idea of there being an ecosystem of different currencies for different purposes. There might be things like child or elder care cooperatives where you earn credits volunteering with your labor, or something like that, or community labor exchanges, just operating as a subsystem within that
Yeah,
system.
so that sounds a lot like the token system
Yeah,
that we've had for a while in the crypto community. But my issue with that is the liquidity. From like my research on what becomes money, what actually becomes money, uh, is that it was my conclusion from this research was that the most crucial part of money is the liquidity, the ability to easily exchange it for anything that you want. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
right? Otherwise, it's some sort of barter, and that doesn't really, and that increases the cost of swapping between those assets, and it doesn't. Well, it doesn't grow in liquidity. Um, mm,
and that's a problem with pretty much any alternative currency system, whether it's Let's or Greco system or whatever, so long as you've got an official state currency that has an unfair competitive advantage, and that the state takes tax payments in that currency, and large capitalist employers and grocery chains and so on accept
yes,
primarily
yes,
that currency. There's always going to be people that have leftover units of currency with nothing to spend it on. So I think, regardless of the specific system, it's something it's likely to much more likely to come into its own as the older system decays, and it's harder to obtain the official currency,
Hmm, right.
to get to obtain the necessities of life. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of like systemic collapse is and survival is the killer application.
Nice. That's a strong meme. I'd say. Yeah.
But I was
Um,
going to ask, as far as just funding the infrastructure itself. I wonder if some sort of a small demurrage deduction based on the size of your balance to cover the administration of the system would help to promote liquidity.
uh, could you repeat the question because
Yeah,
I don't think
if
I understood.
if you fund the basic costs of the system, keeping the operating infrastructure going, if you fund that with some sort of a small demurrage deduction
Oh, right.
uh,
The merge. Okay.
on
Yes.
Cassell's model, just as some defined percentage, maybe less than 1% of whatever your balance is on a recurring basis, if that would promote liquidity as well.
Well, we had like in the crypto communities, there were a lot of attempts on creating the merge currencies. William is involved in one of them, right? William, you're involved in Nervous. Uh, so does the cost um, mm, of running it? I know this is it doesn't go for the it doesn't really go to the fully to the infrastructure, the merge in Nervous, but does it promote liquidity? How do you think?
Um, Nervos is a completely different system than Ergon, and basically the tax is enforced to do those administrative costs in the long term after supply runs out. So it's like a secondary tail emission. Um, I don't I don't know if it encourages liquidity or not, honestly.
Mm. Yeah, it doesn't actually. It doesn't really make people need it, right? It doesn't make it so that it's needed. What I noticed in my research was that the thing that promotes liquidity the most is stability. If something is extremely stable in value, then the people who trade with it don't bear costs of um, you know
Yes,
of
it's a
keeping
chicken
it
and
for the reason mm, to trade with it, right? Because you have to have some buffer to actually get the supplies you need for your work. And when the thing that you have is unstable, then it's not good mm, to actually provide liquidity with it, because any merchant uh, is a liquidity provider, because they make things easily exchangeable for that, right? Any merchant that trades with something is a liquidity provider.
So yeah, basically, demurrage only promotes liquidity if there's actually something to buy. If you've got a lot of credits and there aren't enough people in the system with stuff that you need, it's not really going to make any difference if your unspent balance erodes.
Yeah, it would promote liquidity if it stabilized the prices somehow, I think. But I've never seen any evidence for it to have a stabilization effect. William, what do you think?
yeah, I'm trying to think about that, but I was gonna say um regarding the the liquidity problem, it is a chicken or egg problem where stability promotes liquidity and liquidity promotes stability. So how do you get to one or the other first? Um, that's the toughest question. But the reason Licho created Ergon is that because of the proportional block reward and the fixed production cost, that it oscillates around equilibrium, um, like that, whereas Bitcoin just does the exact opposite and goes parabolically up forever. So it's essentially Bitcoin is a non-starter in the chicken or egg problem because you can't get either. You can't get liquidity or stability.
I I was just thinking mainly of systems like based on Gesell's ideas, like the Veer back in mid 20th century, where it incentivized people to spend their money rather than hoard it and keep it circulating in the system.
Right. I I I'm familiar with that, but my my personal like take or analysis on that is that isn't isn't any sort of um artificial incentivization just bad because it's not free market based.
I don't know.
Yeah, a
I'm
unit just be a unit, right? We should like when we're trying to do something, we're mixing up the signals that are coming.
Because that's
Uh,
what the that's in a roundabout way, that's what the Fed does. They incentivize and stimulate the economy by devaluing people's currency and encouraging them to spend it. But that's not organic spending, right? If the currency was just able to um have a supply based on demand, it doesn't really need any extra stimulation because all it's supposed to do is just represent what the market wants.
Well, I would think of it as just some sort of uh, depending on how large it was, just a way of funding the costs of the system. But
Oh,
that
right,
might
because
be
you were
just
you were you
small
were
enough
pointing out
amount.
that you were pointing
Mhm.
out that it was to encourage liquidity, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would be a dual function, but the amount it would actually cost to fund the operation of the system might be so small it wouldn't have a significant liquidity function anyway.
Right. Okay. I understand better now. All right. Yeah.
But I should also mention I'm entirely, friendly towards reformist measures under the existing system when it comes to the money. Like instead of uh, using the Federal Reserve to control the money supply by lending it into existence, I'd much rather see something like the social credit system where whatever amount of new money is needed is just deposited into everyone's checking account every month. And what was it? Milton Friedman said that the central banks should expand the money supply by 3% every year. If what the U.S. GDP is around 30 odd trillion now, that would be $1 trillion a year, which would come down to $250 per capita being deposited into everyone's checking account every month, which would be, I mean, you look at the experiments where they did pilot universal basic income programs equivalent to that same amount, and it just made a huge difference in people's economic stability and bargaining power and so forth.
Right.
Uh, and I mean, it would be no more creating money out of thin air than what the Fed does right now. Only they nobody would be making a profit charging interest on the function. It would be actually be going into people's pockets
Right. So
to
it's like
spend. And yeah,
democratizing the inflation.
it would. Well, it would. I think it would just utilize capacity, and it would eliminate a major part of the problem we have now of money being transferred from people of ordinary means with a high propensity to spend to rich people that just want to tuck it away in savings with nothing to invest it in.
Yeah, it's essentially comparable to like solving a Cantillon effect, right?
It,
Uh, are you
but
familiar with Cantillon effect?
I probably read about it in the past, but I've forgotten what it is.
So it's an effect in which the newly printed money are diluting the value in at a but they first dilute the value
Oh,
to the people who are closer. I mean, the people who are closer to the money printer are have the advantage because like
okay.
the equilibrium wasn't reached yet, so they are
Closer
still
to
spending
using.
money on the old prices and only causing
Well,
the prices to change again, right?
well,
So to change to the new equilibrium.
well, I think under ordinary non-inflationary conditions, you've got disequilibrium effect just because of chronic tendency towards idle capacity and underconsumption and surplus investment capital. So I think so
Yeah,
long as the monthly citizens dividend was limited to, below some determined amount, it wouldn't be inflationary at all. It would just go into stimulating idle capacity uh, rather than raising the price level. That's why I mentioned, specifically Milton Friedman's figure, which I guess is the figure he thought would be enough to support economic growth without being inflationary.
Yeah, and it changes the incentives within the system, doesn't it? Because when there is no cantillon effect, when the newly printed money doesn't go to don't go to the investment banks first, then they go to big capitalists, and only then a few steps down the ladder they go to the regular predator, right?
Yeah,
Right now they have the incentive to be diluting those money. They have the incentive because they profit from it like hugely. um, and when if those money were issued directly to the people, that would remove this incentive. That's indeed legitimate. I
it,
never
it
thought about
is.
it actually. Yeah, I never
And
thought about it
yeah, and
this way.
just given the extent of the existing economy that consists of unearned uh, passive income and economic rents of various sorts, and especially just over the past generation, there's an increasing chronic problem of billionaires amassing sums of savings that there's nothing profitable to spend it on because working people don't have the purchasing power to utilize existing production capacity. So you wind up with the plutocracy putting all their money into bubble economy schemes, finance, real estate, and so forth, or putting it all into private equity firms that wind up buying up productive enterprises and stripping them for parts for short term profit and actually
So they're in the
destroying.
same.
Uh,
Yeah, so they're in similar position as deep capital from Bitcoin. Uh, uh, what we call deep capital is those early mined. I mean, the owners of the early mined coins, like back at the beginning of Bitcoin, the issuance was huge comparing to what is now, and
mm,
those very few people hoarded a ton of bitcoins, and they essentially can't sell it because
mm,
there's not enough buyers. Um, yeah, we call them deep capital because they're like the shadowy people who run Bitcoin. Yeah, and another advantage of our system is that this deep capital is impossible to appear on Ergon because, well, people at the beginning are mining with for essentially the same cost as the people will be mining in like 10 years for a unit, right? So at the beginning the rewards were when very few people mined. The rewards were like few I mean, many decimals away from a one. It was like a 10,000th of an ergon, right? So, mm,
this
um,
This
yes.
kind of off topic, but a really sad story. Back in 2011, when Bitcoin was just what, a couple of bucks, someone hired me to write a piece for 10 Bitcoins, and I set up a wallet. I can't even remember what wallet it was to accept payment. And then I just, forgot about it and didn't pay any further attention. And then I think a few years later, when it was up to thousands of dollars a piece, I vaguely remembered it, and I couldn't even remember how much I'd been paid. I was thinking
Um,
maybe it had been something like 10% of a Bitcoin or something, and I thought, well, still, that might come out to a few $100s, so it might be worth checking out. And I went back through all my emails looking to see what wallet I had used to accept payment and go look in the and turned out I looked at the original offer email and it was 10 Bitcoins, and I was thinking, holy crap, that's I forgot how many tens of thousands of dollars it would have been at the
oh
time.
man.
I went to the wallet and it was completely defunct. So right now I'm the theoretical owner of like $600,000 worth of Bitcoin that just vanished.
If you have the files, I can attempt to recover it for you. Uh, Maybe um, we can try. Maybe
Well,
it will
well,
work.
I'll tell you what, if you can recover that, I'll give you all a major chunk of it.
Thanks.
Sure as hell not doing me any good now. So if I can dig back again and find the records of what wallet I used at the time, yeah, that's probably about all I've got. Is But I'll send you whatever information I have for whatever it's worth.
Okay, so we're gonna try it. Maybe it will work.
Okay. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't remember any login information or anything like that. I don't know if I kept a trail of that in my email files or what.
okay. Yeah, maybe. Hopefully, it was a self-custodial wallet, not a hosted one. Uh, Otherwise, it might be unrecoverable. Yeah, yeah. We'll
I
take a
guess
look at it.
I feel like it's probably unrecoverable, but
Yeah, we can try.
nice, nice.
Okay, I wanted to. Yeah, I wanted to ask about credit in trustless environment. Um, uh, we know from the like my benchmark of what is possible without the state, like what is even doable without the use of violence, is very often what is possible on the darknet. And what I came to realize is that there's no such thing as debt on cryptocurrencies. There's not really any platform for lending other than an over collateralized one, but an over collateralized um, credit is actually a bet, not really. I mean, you're not getting more than you initially had, just in terms of something else. So what I imagine is that in a fully trustless environment, where like not in a village where people know each other, but on a larger scale between people who don't know each other, who don't trust each other, it's quite impossible to create something like that.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think about it? Do you agree with that sentiment, or maybe not?
Well, I'm a big fan of Proudhon's model of federation, of setting up standing platforms that are mutually maintained by local systems. So I mean, I can see a number of local credit systems creating a joint federated platform that operates on a larger scale, and the main source of trust is the local platforms themselves being in some way verified or registered with the larger regional platform as the primary members of it.
Yeah, but that isn't. It, I mean, is it still like doesn't eventually come down to violent resolutions? Because I don't see how. I mean, maybe it can be some sort of rating or reputation of an entire community.
Well, yeah, I
Uh,
mean, it would be reputational. You would a, a member communities standing in the federation would derive from their past performance in the system, and the main sanction would be losing that reputational sanction and being expelled from the system.
You might like there's a different consensus mechanism in cryptocurrency um science. So aside from proof of work, which uses energy, there's also a method called proof of authority, which is like this. It's like a federated system based on
Hmm.
reputation, and there's no energy.
yeah.
So you might be interested in that.
I just generally like the idea of standing platforms that exist on a federal basis. It's the partner state idea, if you guys have heard of that.
No, I don't think I heard it.
It well, I mean, it's one of those many ideas that goes back to Saint Simon writing about social evolution from legislation over people to the administration of things. Uh, there are, various versions of it. Proudhon talking about dissolving the state in society, or Marx talking about the withering away of the state. And the partner state is in that tradition that uh, its focus is primarily on the state itself becoming less state-like and becoming more of an apolitical administrative platform over time. But I think you can also get the same effects just from replacing state functions with the creation of standing administrative platforms of various kinds that are maintained by local communities within a federation to support their common activities or
So
whatever. It's a I guess a matter of hierarchies in general becoming less like hierarchies and becoming more like horizontal platforms where most of the decisions are automatic or administrative rather than political. I mean, you can see the same thing to some extent comparing some different functions of the state itself that are more or less state-like than others. I mean, if you look at something like the National Weather Service, it's almost completely automatic and administrative in the way that it works. It works about the same way that a stakeholder cooperative would in just performing its basic functions. Only there's a difference in funding or the way the Social Security system or the post office function mostly on an automatic basis with a minimum of personal discretion. You compare that to things like the police or human services that have large gatekeeping elements and so forth. They're considerably less state-like in their operations. So
Yeah.
the less state-like we can make things, and the more platform-like or automatic we can make them, the better. You could apply the same idea to federations of local communities within a region, setting up a common platform for administering the railroad network between the cities, or maintaining the communications lines and so on, or the power grid. And I
Yeah.
think you could do the same thing with credit.
I have a I have a thought experiment. If we out of out of a sudden created force fields, personal force fields,
Hmm.
mm, meaning that any person can switch a button on their belt and immediately be immune to physical violence, like in the meat space. Um, then um, the state would essentially collapse onto this exact role of a partner state, right? Because they wouldn't be able to do anything to you, like physically. They wouldn't be able to, you know, mm, I don't know, extort taxes from you. So, like any taxation would have been only on a voluntary basis. They wouldn't have the advantage. What I mean, it's not my fault, but the way violence scales, the way violence scales, it scales pretty bad with the number of people involved. Like when people organize themselves, they can easily attack any small group or an individual. And in a way, what this thought experiment should, in my opinion, should be showing is that what we would have to do in order to actually prevent things from being very much state-like, like not like with a big advantage. What we would have to do is to change how this violence scales.
Hmm.
And the common, like a common theme there in cryptography, like not in cryptocurrencies, that they don't really have any encryptions, most of them. The like in cryptography, when you use encrypted methods of communication, is that cryptography changes how violence scales, because the defender is put in the position of an advantage, because no matter how strong the attacker is, the defender can always defend themselves self better than the attacker can attack it. So my idea of moving towards um, like a better system, like a step by step or a brick by brick, or removing bricks from a wall, would be to be creating tools for that would empower individuals in a way uh, that work like those force fields, like they put people in an advantage when they are attacked. So my thinking is that all those systems of money or systems of trade, um, what they should be doing, they should be resistant in a way that changes how an attacker power is positioned. How it should change how it scales.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Maybe.
the that would not only make the state unenforceable, but it would also mean that the only ways of enforcing contracts or agreements of any kind would be reputational.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. That's like that would be a huge change. I want to write a sci-fi book about it, but I don't know if I ever will.
It would the only possible sanctions would be some kind of a tit for tat exchange where that would
Yeah, like a
eventually
refusal to cooperate.
everybody, yeah, everybody would eventually perceive that it's a better strategy to adhere to agreements just out of your own personal future self interest. There would also be questions like how you would enforce something like occupancy of a given patch of land that you're cultivating, uh, unless you could extend the force field beyond your immediate person.
Yeah, that would result in a very different like scenarios if we had like a force field that only protects your personal space and you can't really do it outside of a person. Like you can't, I don't know, surround your area of land with that. What would it look like? That would
And yet,
probably be very weird scenario where anyone can enter your house literally. And I don't know, you'd have to still rely on some locks and padlocks and walls. I don't know.
and
uh,
working out a social consensus just through tit for tat, where everybody agreed to not interfere with the space other people were using in order to keep their own from being burnt down.
yeah, yeah, indeed. You enter my space and you. So I will never do business again with you because you're a douchebag, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
yeah.
it's the that kind of technology is kind of analogous, and when getting back to the international security thing, to a situation where area denial weaponry becomes cheaper than power projection technology. It's uh, it's easier to it's cheaper to build missiles capable of sinking an aircraft carrier or blowing up or blow up invading tanks than it is to carry out the invasion.
Yeah.
Saw a little
Uh,
bit of that with Ukraine, where the prominence of comparatively cheap drones in attacking Russian armor.
yeah. Uh, I imagine we're like moving in a direction of how it was sort of in the Middle Ages, where you could have built a fortress, and it and essentially a bunch of people could have defended it for months, and it would be impossible to conquer. Right, like the defenders were at an advantage.
Or
Mm.
Switzerland, yeah.
Yeah, we should be building anarchist communities in bunkers.
I
Mm.
I vaguely remember reading that the ninja had a similar origin. They were like uh, free freebooters, or something like Ronin that would uh, hire themselves out to defend villagers, groups of villages against neighboring lords,
Nice.
and
Yeah,
that was
that's you mean Japanese ninja, right? Right, like those
yeah,
in
yeah,
the movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a similar thing in Europe. Kropotkin wrote about leagues of villages uniting to defend themselves against the authority of the local noblemen, and in most cases they wound up being defeated if it wasn't on defensible ground. But Switzerland is one case where those leagues of villages were defensible enough to wind up nullifying the authority of the Holy Roman Emperor
Mm.
and establishing an independent territory.
Yeah, even right now, the bunkers that I mentioned in Switzerland, uh, they have um, their entire mountains are just filled with bunkers, and that's how they essentially remained neutral the whole time because they were able to defend themselves.
And every bridge and mountain pass in the country ready to be sabotaged at the push of a button.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's changing how the violence scales. I wonder why aren't they like actually anarchists? Because it means that, I mean, right now the regular people are allowed to live in those bunkers. Mm, I've seen like a video on YouTube where someone was driving around Switzerland and visiting many different like bunkers that either abandoned or inhabited by regular people. Like
Hmm.
um, so, I mean that's a good ground for an anarchist revolution.
Yeah, I think they were a lot closer to an anarchist society, like in the 19th century, back when the cantons were mostly autonomous or independent, and within the cantons, the local communities themselves functioned as direct democracies, and everything above that was just like a really weak federal body.
Nice, yeah. So that shows the direction when where the things flow when people have the power, like the individuals are empowered, right?
Yeah,
um, like the more empowered people, the less of power there is to grab over them because they have the
uh,
power over themselves. Mm.
yeah. It just and hopefully the shifts in defensive technology will make it a lot harder for one country to invade another and make it more easy for populations to become ungovernable.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, it's such a great conversation. But it's getting late. I don't know if should we roll a bit more or would you guys rather I don't know wrap it up here?
I
Oh, I
personally,
should probably wrap it up in like
Yeah,
within the next 15 minutes or so.
yeah. William.
yeah, no, I have to personally get going soon as well, but I just wanted to ask you if you would like to give a quick summary of the works you've done and the places people can contact you?
Yeah.
What was that last part?
How people could find you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I'll do that first. I write a lot of current commentary, op-eds, and so forth, and longer research papers at Center for a Stateless Society, which is c4ss.org. Uh, I have a personal website called kevinacarson.org that has online PDFs of all of my books except for the most recent one, and it also has links to my academia.edu and ResearchGate pages and my Patreon. So basically, if you go to kevinacarson.org, you can find links to just about everything I've done, and you can see what I'm doing on a current basis at c4ss.org. Uh, Other than that, I guess the book we talked about, mutualist political economy. I've changed my positions on a lot of things quite a bit since then because it's been almost 20 years. I don't really
Yeah.
call myself a market anarchist anymore because I don't the idea of writing out a recipe for a future society that's organized around any particular kind of monolithic template like markets or syndicates or anything or communes or anything of that sort. I
Yeah.
just use the term anarchist without adjectives, but my biggest influences are probably the new municipalist movements like in Madrid and Barcelona or Cooperation Jackson and that sort of thing. And my economics since then has been pretty heavily influenced by institutionalism of people like John R. Commons and Thorstein Veblen. Uh, but I've written, fairly long string of books since then. Organization Theory. My third book, uh, Homebrew Industrial Revolution, is I'm I'm still pretty proud of those first two chapters, just analyzing the history of mass production industry and the alternatives it foreclosed. Um,
I love this book, by the way. Yeah, it's really great indeed.
in desktop regulatory state, my focus was on the network revolution and how networked communication technologies are increasingly empowering individuals and small groups in every aspect of life against hierarchies. And in what was the one after that? Exodus, General Idea of the Revolution, is a study of focusing especially on the new municipalist movements and on the ways the left in general has shifted away from the old left model based on mass and hierarchy and organization towards a decentralized or horizontal model, among which the municipalist movements and various building blocks of local cooperative economies are the most important. And finally, most recently, I wrote a book called The State Theory and Practice. which is about transitional strategy and on the best ways to combat the state, both by interacting and participating in it, and by building structures outside of it with the goal of supplanting it, a sort of dual track strategy. So that's that's just a general survey of my work.
I'm excited to read them. Thanks. Yeah,
Well,
I
well,
could see, like, down the future, just because of we have an overlap in our theories, which is the principles of neutrality and decentralization and a horizontal structure. So hopefully we can, collaborate sometime in the future or have further talks about this subject.
yeah, I'd like that. And anything you want to read, like I said, you can get the facsimile PDFs of everything except the last book at kevincarson.org. And I think if you follow the link from there to academia.edu, I've got a PDF of my last book, The State, online there as well.
Yeah, don't forget to place the A in the middle, because otherwise you will end up on a page of some preacher, some religious
Oh
preacher.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's an A between the name and the last name.
yeah. Let's see. There's a preacher, a musician, a school administrator, porn star. A lot of Kevin Carsons out there.
Yeah, should we do live onboarding? May I send you some small amount of Ergons live on the podcast?
Certainly.
Okay, so if you'd be able to go to our website, calorie.social, calorie.social.
Calorie.social.
Yeah, calorie, like the unit of energy, like the non-SI unit of energy.
Yep. Says the site can't be reached.
Oh,
Calorie.social.
calorie. I'll send it on the
Is it
group chat.
CALORIE?
Is it what?
Why? No way.
Calorie with Y.
With a Y, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Don't tell me that J misspelled calorie. William, is it in English? Because he's French. Is it correct in English?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Calorie with Y in the end.
I think it's wrong. Oh,
Nice.
wait. Yeah, it's wrong.
Okay.
That means calorie
Okay.
with a Y.
So should I click on new wallet?
Yes.
Yeah. It stores it in the browser, so it's not on any the keys are not on any server or anything.
It just says congratulations on your new wallet.
Yeah, so if you'd be able to click on the button with an arrow down on the bottom of the window.
Okay. It's a
You'll
QR code thing.
Yeah, and the address below it, Ergon, like Q something, the string of.
I don't
The
have
string of
any kind of personal electronics that'll read QR codes.
Could you repeat?
I don't have any. I don't have like a smartphone or anything that will read.
Right below it, below the QR code, there should be a piece of text. When you click it, it should copy it.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you could send it to me with whatever channel you wish,
by email.
Yeah, like by mail or by the chat on the meeting. I don't know if no, you're through phone, so you can't do that, right? So
Uh,
maybe.
let's see here. I just pasted it into an email, and I'm
Yeah, all
sending it.
right. That works. Yeah.
Now, what next?
Oh, I got something. I think. Yeah, I got it. Yep. So I'm sending. Yep. Sent. Yeah, it should appear for you. Um,
So it should appear in my email.
no, it should appear on your calorie social. It should
Hmm.
show that you
Okay, it
have.
says 1657.
Yeah.
Nope,
So
16. Yeah, 0.03 Ergon.
yeah, that's 0.03 ergon. One ergon is right now it's around $500. There's around 61 of them in circulation.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you too. Thank you so much. Yeah, well, I'm so happy you could have joined us. Yeah, that's really awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if I bookmark your website, will the browser save my wallet information?
Yes, yes. The browser have already saved it, like in their internal storage, in its internal storage. So if you just remember the address, it's good enough. But if you bookmark it, it's you'll have better, uh,
Yeah.
you know, you'll have better access to it. Yeah, and you can write down like 12 words from the settings. Page and have it on like a piece of paper, so you'll be if you do that you'll be able to recover that whenever,
Let's see, uh,
mm, on whatever
settings.
computer.
So
Yeah,
to access this, I need to go to settings and create some kind of a personal.
like there's a if you go there, there's a backup your wallet, and you there click reveal a seed phrase, confirm something, and it will show you 12 words. You can write them down on a piece of paper, and well, it will. Well, this is the key to your coins.
I see.
This is excuse me.
I see.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Okay. Mm.
and what? How do I use the ergons?
You can send them to anyone you want. That's the main case right now. Well, um, mm, yeah, you can basically send them to anyone. You can issue those tokens. But that may be for like quite a long explanation for now. Can issue those tokens, and yeah, you can sell them on an exchange where there is someone to send it to like exchange it for another something, which is unfortunately we don't have like markets, like real markets with things yet. um, But yeah, you can exchange it for another cryptocurrency easily. Like, yeah,
Okay.
fairly easy.
What exchanges are you on?
It's on Exagex. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. And on Xbitron, and on Komodo Exchange. Komodo Platform Exchange. It's a decentralized exchange where, well, it's quite inconvenient because you have to wait for an hour before the transaction happens, and it sometimes fails, but you don't lose anything when it fails. Mm, but yeah, then you don't have to deal with third parties that you would have to trust, but maybe you don't.
And I can find that just Googling it, right?
Yeah, on the main website, Ergon MOE, which stands for Means of Exchange.
Komodo.
There's a list of ecosystem.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the short. That's the short.
Komodo,
Some.
Komodo.
Could you repeat? I couldn't hear you.
Is it Komodo, Komodo?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just emailed myself my seed phrase, so I've got that saved. Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you too. See ya. Yeah.